means that I'm aiming to help professors do what I learned to do a little bit into my career after some rough patches that I ran into. And that's to be both productive and happy. And so I want you to have a great life and do great work. So if I ask you what constitutes a great life and how you spend time, here's what we're wanting to do. We want to look at stuff that meets your needs, that gives you pleasure, and usually somewhere attaches you to other people. Well, let's back up here a minute and talk about strategic career design. So we're going to focus on the productive and the happy part in a real specific way. As David said, it's designing intentionally, and I'll add strategically, the next chapter of your life. If you're always thinking about the next chapter, it informs the present chapter. So what do I mean by strategic career design? It is using design thinking to get your ideal career and life. Anyone here from engineering? Do you have an engineering school? Okay. So design thinking is something you're familiar with. And for the rest of you, it doesn't mean that you just make something and it rolls out. Design thinking is about working it as you're going and tweaking it and debugging it and redesigning it. And so what strategic career design is not, is making some kind of plan and walking through it lockstep no matter what happens in the environment or within you. It's not making a 3 to 5 year plan that you must do and you must complete it on time. It's about going over and over things that are happening to you and working it back into the plan. So what we're aiming for is to have a great life, which involves meeting your needs, usually meeting other people's needs in a kind of socially connected way, and is fun, gives you pleasure, enjoyment. We're also looking at helping you do great work, which is great work happens at the sweet spot when you use a strength, you fulfill a passion of yours, and you get rewarded. If you're doing something that you're not very good at and you really don't want to develop the strength, you're not spending your time on great work. If you're doing something you don't care a lot about, even if you're good at it, you're not doing great work. And if you're doing these two things, and we're talking about your job, and your institution doesn't reward you, you've got an interesting hobby, but it's not great work. So it's the intersection of the three of these and the sweet spot that's hit that really makes for great work. Well, what I found in all this, looking at this performance research, is that if I could describe a peak performing professor with practical strategies, as Pamela suggested that we need to know about this morning, I would put it all into an acronym that spells out PACE. And kind of like the tortoise and the hare and the Aesop's fable and the race, the slow but sure tortoise is actually the way to win the race. Not the sprint, but the marathon. The rather slow plodding but regular and with sufficient speed to get things done. The P of PACE stands for powering yourself with a sense of meaning and purpose, and that answers the question, why am I doing this? So the rock bottom foundation of your strategic career design is going to be to power yourself and motivate yourself with what really matters for you. Once you do that, we're going to suggest that you align all your activities and things that you do with this sense of meaning and purpose. And this answers the question, what will I do on a daily basis? So this starts to move us into the sense of priority and how might we want to set the priority for the use of our time and energy. The third thing is that we need to connect with supportive, like-minded people, both at home and at work and in our personal and professional lives, because they help us get where we need to go. We're not going to do much with this. That's part of the 6-hour workshop that I'm going to drop out. And lastly, we want to be able to answer the question, how are you going to do this as you energize your whole body, mind, and spirit for this long and wonderful, possibly a very lifelong career that allows you to be productive and happy at the same time. And we may do a little bit of that last one, but probably not as much as I would if I had 6 hours with you. Now here's a lot of the kind of a model or a cartoon of a faculty that I meet wherever I go. This is a faculty person who has a lot of goals, and those goals aren't getting finished. And so similar to what some of you said, David said, how do I get from my ideas to finish? Here's a guy with a lot of ideas. We also heard Sam talk about setting priorities, and other David talking about intentional planning and for the next stage of my life. And so why is it that this guy is experiencing so much chaos? So this speaks to what Pam gave us at the beginning. This sense of chaos comes from a gazillion ideas floating around in his head, in the sky, in the cloud, wherever you want to put it, and they're not connected to each other. And they're not connected to him. So in this morning's workshop, we're going to start getting all of those ideas that you have, personal and professional, and get them to start connecting together. Well, maybe when you were a kid, you did a connect the dots and the picture emerged as you did that. That's a little bit what we're going to do this morning. As you can see when you look at the screen, these aqua turquoisey dots are in that mess. So Pamela and others who had their hand up when Pamela spoke about that chaos, and I saw some smiles, Pamela, so you're in good company here that other people recognize themselves. That's kind of how it feels a lot of the time. What we need to do is connect those dots so that that pattern that's in there emerges. And even though the rest of those things might be somewhat important, at any one particular time we have a strong sense of exactly where this path is going, that those are the dots we're paying the most attention to. Later on maybe we'll pick up some of those other ones, but this is the path we want. So we're going to look at designing a life management system with a big picture to start with. And we're going to begin with the P of PACE and talk about how to power yourself. So let me define a little model I've come up with to teach this peak performing professor. Similar to your teaching, we sometimes draw pictures that help our brains connect with concepts. And this is a picture that a lot of people have found very helpful in trying to pull these concepts together. You'll see this on the top of page 5, a schematic diagram of this pyramid, and you can draw along as I'm annotating what the different levels and steps are. So why did I pick a pyramid? Well, as the architects tell us, it's the most stable structure. It's the structure least liable to fall over or get knocked over because it has a wide base and a narrow top. And in this model, you'll see that all of those goals that that little guy had floating around in his head and in the clouds are now anchored to a structure with several other elements that we're going to develop across the morning. And once you put this pyramid of power together, you will be able to live a life of design, and your career will have more strategic design to it. So let me very quickly give you some definitions of what each of these elements are. And you have these in your notes, so you don't have to write this down. It's already there. A sense of purpose tells me why I'm here on this earth. Once I know that, I want to be able to do my mission very well. And that answers the question, if I'm to live my purpose, what am I actually going to do on a day-to-day basis? If I do my mission, what will result? So vision would be the outcomes, the benchmark, the ultimate results of my living my purpose by doing actions in my mission. And lastly, what are the specific tasks or goals or projects that will help connect all the dots of this whole pyramid into this life management system? We're going to be doing a construction of this life management system for each of you across this morning. Then we'll talk a little bit about how to manage it, including how to set priorities and how to keep track of projects so that David and others can go from ideas to finished products so that we can see things that will result in actual practical things. Question, Sam?
Really quickly, the way that you're using mission and vision, is that consistent with the way the organizations are currently using it, or the way that organizations might create their own mission?
Good question. There's a long answer, but the brief answer is this vocabulary is turned upside down in every other book you will pick up.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
For today, these are the definitions we'll use. Secondly, I heard another question beneath your question, which is, can a unit, an organization as large as a university or as small as a married couple, use this exact same model? And the answer is yes, the exact same process. Takes longer to get input from more people than just you doing this by yourself. But yes, a collective group can do this as well. So you'll see in the literature, especially the business literature, that sometimes they define mission and vision opposite of the way I'm doing it, but I'm being very precise this morning. So thank you, Sam, for that. Okay, we're going to start with purpose. You have a little space right there to write your life purpose, so I'm going to give you a minute of silence to kind of figure out, why are you on this earth? What are you all about? What is something that in a single sentence, could be a long run-on sentence, that you would describe yourself or other people would describe you, that would get beyond your current job description to something that was probably true of you when you were 12, is true of you now, and will very likely be true of you at age 82. So bigger than your job, who you are, your life purpose.